Next up, citizen comments period. At this time, we ask anyone in the audience or who is registered and wishes to speak online to please do so. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and that you direct those comments to the mayor and council. First up, I have Ms. Tracy Shield.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, for the record, Tracy Shield. Most of the time you hear negative comments and complaints from this podium, but not tonight, not from me. I just wanted to thank the leadership of the City of Kyle, including council and all department heads, for the work that they did last week for your designation, Snowvid. But it was very hard on a lot of our residents in the city, and you guys stepped up and really tried to make it as bearable as it could be. So this resident says thank you. Also, I want to say that the texts and phone calls that we got on a daily basis were amazing. You know, it was bad enough our people were in the dark, literally, but not so far in the dark that they did not know what was going on. And again, this resident thanks you for that. And I hope that Mr. Sellers in his city manager report can let residents know how they can get those texts and phone numbers, and phone calls if they did not receive them last week for any future emergencies, because unfortunately, they do happen. So I, again, thank you very much, and I appreciate you. Oh, and I didn't mean to leave you guys out, and I'm sorry, especially Harper and Public Works. Oh my goodness. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Next up, Mr. Peter Parcher.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, and staff. I would like to echo Tracy's comments made. Y'all did a fantastic job this week. You went well above and beyond. And, I had the pleasure of working with some of you during that time. Awesome job, awesome. Same to city staff, please, all the way down to the bottom. Please, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Moving on with that one, same theme, different subject. I have formed the Kyle Emergency Response Team for the use by the city, Kyle Police, Kyle Fire. As of right now, I formed it this morning. As of right now, there are 33 members ready to go to do general volunteer work. They will be trained to do emergency operations. And on my third note, I would hope y'all are still considering putting the Kyle Veterans Parade on an agenda so we can work with that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Parcher,
Sir.
I just wanted to say thank you for stepping up and taking charge of our warming center and making sure everybody that went there was tended to and taken care of. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for what you did during the winter storm and, going out there in the cold. A lot of people wouldn't step up and do that. You did, and I appreciate that. Thank you for your service that evening.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone who's registered to speak online? Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on any item? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close citizen comments. It is now closed. Next up, we're going to go to agenda item number 25, discussion and possible action regarding recognizing the City of Kyle employees for their extraordinary efforts during Winter Storm Uri. Mayor Pro Tem.
So this is a work in progress. During Snowpocalypse, AKA Snowmageddon, AKA Winter Storm Uri, AKA Snowvid 21. AKA also known as a very challenging week for the state of Texas and the city of Kyle. I asked for this item to be put on the agenda at the last minute after being out in the field and basically just chasing our tails, watching our staff do everything they could to get us through this, watching my fellow council members do everything they could to help, and then watching the community come out in droves to try to help their neighbors, try to help the elderly. You know, just everybody was pitching in, and it was really just a sight to witness. And I was really proud, and I know that when we push our staff and when we push the community this hard to help each other, it just sometimes it goes without recognition. And so I called Scott up, and I was scared to call Scott up sometimes during this week because I knew he was busy with all sorts of stuff. Side note, I just want to tell this story about Scott. We were in the midst of chaos. It was probably Wednesday or Thursday, I don't remember, but I felt brave enough to go out there and drive on the snow and ice, and I was done calling him, and so I just let him know, I'm going to show up at your house so I can get an update. And I drove to his neighborhood, parked in front of his house, and he was standing on his lawn. And at first I thought he was a homeless man because he hadn't showered the entire week. His hair was all over the place, and he looked completely stressed out. And it had an effect on me watching how hard our city manager, I knew if he looked that stress, there were tons of members of our staff that were that stressed out. And I know that my fellow council members were stressed out. And I know people in their homes with no power and no water were stressed out. And so watching the resilience of everybody fighting through something that we had never dealt with before, something that we necessarily weren't equipped to deal with in this state, it warmed my heart. And I wanted to put this on there to give some recognition in the immediate. But Scott and I have been talking about what we're going to do in the future to really relay that appreciation to our staff members. And so there's some different plans, and we'll bring them back on the next council meeting in a way to truly show appreciation to everybody involved. But I also knew that we had a lot of council members that wanted to say something about this. And so really this is an opportunity for us to be thankful for getting through this situation and to show appreciation to everyone. And I just want to say, Scott, thank you, man. You are a great, fantastic city manager, and it shows in these situations, and it shows with our department heads. I mean, it shows all the way down to Benito from Public Works with a smile on his face in the middle of a food drive on the weekend that Councilmember Rizzo and staff put together in 24 hours. And it was awesome to be right there next to them, working alongside them, being a soldier, and just following their lead on that. Same goes for Harper. I drove over to Public Works one day when we were in the midst of our water crisis to get to know more. And he's showing me screens and taking me through, and the stress on his is up to his eyeballs. And it was fantastic to just watch the way that he just kept moving and working. And I want to thank him. I want to thank every department head. I want to thank our council. But I want to thank you, Mayor, because when we were in the midst of the water crisis and it was looking really, really bad for the entire city, and we had to boil water, and no one knew where to get water, and you guys were scrambling to figure out how to set something up. I knew that heads were coming together for plans, and when you guys came up with the idea for the water at Hayes High School, that was an awesome feat that I know wasn't an option the day before, or you didn't know of that option. So I just think that we have an amazing leadership group up here, an amazing council who's willing to do whatever they need to do to get their hands dirty, but really to support this staff who's really the ones in the trenches getting their hands dirty. And my final thanks before I end on this is what it really showed me was when the lights go out in this town, this community really still makes it shine bright, because it was a dark time, but I saw my neighbors using the power of social media and without power, go into their cars so they can charge their phones, so they can use really bad bandwidth because everybody was using it because no one had internet, to communicate, to check on their neighbors, and to share milk. So the 2-year-old 3 houses down could have milk because the stores were empty, and people sharing with each other. And it was just an unbelievable, beautiful sight of humanity to witness. And it made me very proud of our community and proud to serve this community. And I want to say that I have, it's touched my heart, and I've learned even more from my council members, from my staff, from community members, what it really means to serve your community, but to just go all out and do whatever you can and be a helpful presence. And so with that, I'm going to yield the floor, but only until next meeting when we figure this out, Scott, of how we're going to truly dole out appreciation. But I am thankful for everyone in this room and our community members and our staff, and I look forward to a way to truly thank all of you in every department. I tried to narrow it down to some departments, and that was the funny challenge of it all, is as we talked about who did what and who went the extra mile, it just kept growing. And that was also a beautiful problem to have, is how do you think when everybody's doing something? And that's a great community. So with that, I yield the floor.
Councilor Ellison.
Thank you, Mayor, and very well said. I certainly second everything that you just commented on. I wanted to share my perspective of the past week really quickly, if I could. First, I'm going to start with the community. I agree that, while we did go through a very difficult time last week, and certainly plenty of things for us to realize from that. And I don't think anybody knew that our systems across the state, I'm talking about, would fail the way they did. But when they did, we had a community that pulled together. And I just wanted to share a couple of perspectives with everyone. So I remember when I was over at the Lehman High School for the mass food distribution, and we had a just surplus, if you can't even have that, of volunteers there. It was great. And I want to thank my fellow colleagues, Councilmember Rizzo, Councilmember Flores Kale, for doing a lot of heavy lifting in that, and anybody else that I've missed that did a lot of work to get that done. But I was talking to some of the volunteers, and almost every one of them that I talked to at that event told me a very similar story. They said that they had not lost water, they had not lost power, nothing really impacted them. They wanted to come help because they saw the community around them was having a difficult time. And I hope that makes an impression on y'all the way it made an impression on me. And it just spoke volumes about how our community comes together, even when we're not the one ailing. And so that really touched my heart. And to see, all of our community, whether it was, I saw my colleagues out there, I saw staff out there, I saw community members that some of the regular crew of volunteers to folks that you don't see as much of, but are very much concerned with this city and want to see it prosper. So that was very unique. The other the other story I want to share about our community is helping out on Saturday and Sunday when we were doing the water filling stations at Hayes High School. And you had folks coming in, and that was the interesting thing about this, that it put everybody on the same level. And I know we as human nature kind of do this. I admit that I do this. You see the folks that are coming through all kinds of different cars of all different kinds of perhaps of the socioeconomic spectrum, but we were all on the same level playing field when this hit us. And so, you know, the gratitude that was expressed to me, I wanted to then extend it to staff primarily of providing that service and those resources and really doing everything they could to pull together in order to help our community that was in need. So I just want to tip my first hat to our community for pulling together, helping out their fellow person. Coach, you did a great job of explaining many different examples of that. And so kudos to our community. Second group I'd like to thank would be our staff. I will say this, Mr. Sellers, there's no other person, no other city manager that I would rather have led us through this situation than you, sir. And I certainly appreciate you. I appreciate hearing the story about you in the yard. I think that's just a further testament of what you give and what you give to this city. And you certainly care about it. That's undeniable. And you show it every time I interact with you. And so I want to thank you for your leadership throughout this. And by extension, every staff member that reports to you indirectly or directly. I want to share a few more stories. Certainly had every group. I was seeing everybody from every different department out there helping, whether it was the food distribution or the events of the weekend as well. You know, Benito, who's in our parks department, I'll correct that for him, Benito. You know, and just a bunch of other folks that were there. And, you know, they don't, some of these people don't even live in our community themselves. And certainly they have their families to look after as well, because we were all dealing with this. But to selflessly give of themselves to our public works department and other departments working into the night, around the clock, and then to be there on a Saturday and Sunday helping fill water tanks. And I could see the exhaustion in those guys and the men and women there. And that just, it once again, just gave me so much hope in humanity and in the hearts of those that are in our community and those that work for our city. You can tell with Team Kyle, it's more than just a job. These people truly care about our community and care about the people that live here, the city. And that just makes me so proud to be a part of it myself and to witness it even. So I want to thank staff from the bottom of my heart. You all showed it unbelievably, the amount of care and attention, and that nothing was going to stop you all, not even fatigue, with doing what you could, and any one of them to get us back going. And I will say, you know, I heard and saw online in various different communities, larger cities with many more resources and much more staff. Obviously, they have to cover more area, but Kyle was at the forefront of that. And I'm glad that we had the type of leadership to grab the bull by the horns, make some decisions, not rely on others, even when things were being told that they would happen. Until you could see it, y'all kept moving. And so I certainly appreciate my colleagues for doing that as well. And certainly, it's a very proud time for me. It's tough, you know, when we go through something so difficult, to find those silver linings and to talk about something positive. But I appreciate this item being put on the agenda. And once again, there's no group of people, no staff of any other city that I'd rather have than the group we have on Team Kyle. And I would be remiss, or I would certainly miss people if I tried to name everyone. You know who you are. I saw you out there. I tried to talk with you and hopefully just try to put a smile on your face, because I know you were tired. But thank you so much for what you do for our city and each day in and day out. Thank you.
Councilman Bradshaw.
I think Councilmember Ellison said it perfectly. Proud is the word that I think I can use with confidence to reflect the way that all 56,000 residents in Kyle feel after seeing how well the city, collectively, the community, the staff, the leadership, responded to the events that occurred. And I'm just going to echo from there. I won't take up too much more time. I'm just going to echo everything that Councilmember Coach and Councilmember Ellison have said. Staff, you all are amazing. We are so fortunate to have you and so grateful for everything that you did for the city.
Councilman Rizzo.
First of all, I'm going to start off with just telling the staff, wow, amazing. From the leadership at the top all the way down to the boots on the ground was an amazing job. Out in the cold, in the middle of the night, running torches, trying to de-ice some of the tanks. I mean, I was impressed because I was out there and I got to see them. And it just blew my mind. Lack of sleep, tired, and they kept persevering on. I just can't say enough about our staff here. The people that work for Kyle are amazing. Sometimes we forget about some of them. I'd like to recognize our police department as well. Our PD was out there just as much as everybody else, and they're out there patrolling in their cars, and these people are risking their lives. The staff, the police department, they're doing all that to give us our basic needs, safety, water, and just keeping us safe, you know? And my heart was just full of what they were doing for us, for our citizens. You know, it was just amazing. But I also want to recognize somebody that really surprised me because I really don't know her that well, but Councilmember Kell. You know, when I first showed up to that shelter and those 26 displaced seniors were there, you know, seeing you there, talking to them, comforting them was amazing. Working on a solution for them, you know. And I want to thank our city manager, Scott Sellers, for finding that solution. Together, it was a team effort, and we did a great job of finding them a soft pillow and a warm bed to sleep in. And it wouldn't have happened if we all didn't care. And talking about that heart, we were able to get together and provide 1,680 meals. After the event, Councilmember Kell felt a little bit bad because we weren't able to reach everybody in the city of Kyle. And she had a couple of tears. I'm going to tell you right now, she needed a hug. She did. But that tells you her heart. She wants to help everyone, and that's amazing. I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I did see a tear. But anyway, Samantha, the communication was key on that. Being able to get that out to the public and allowing them to come out and participate in that resource was great. So thank you and your team and everybody. But just staff, from city council to staff to citizens, neighbors helping neighbors. That's what it's about. That's what makes our city better. If you want to build a beautiful city, a better city, is you do it by one small good deed at a time. Neighbors helping neighbors.
Councilman Flores-Kell.
I don't cry. But with that said, this was an emotional time, I think, for most people. And we tend to remember not so much the situation, but our emotions. And I will say I was tasked with finding warm meals for our city staff, Public Works, wastewater, and the police department. We were all trying to look out for you guys. And as we know, that there was a huge lack of food. But what there was not a lack of was caring and community service. So as a community, I've never experienced people wanting to help in any way they can. I had leftover spaghetti dinners and barbecue and anything that I could go pick up from people, they were willing to give. We also had companies like Chick-fil-A give meals and Taco Cabana and just people reaching out. It was unreal. I'll tell you, I just kind of put out hey, can we get some food, some warm food? And then when I went to drop it off, there was food already there that somebody had to, people dropped off random sodas, random food. Like, I was like, what is this? This is a buffet. It was amazing. And it was heartwarming. And it made me feel good about my community because first and foremost, they helped keep us together. I saw so many posts of like, hey, if you don't have laundry or access to electricity or water, bring it to my house. If you don't have water, you can come shower at my house. It was just unreal. And it gave me a good feeling about not only living in this town, but representing this town. So I'm going to say it was an honor to work alongside each of these council members. Each and every one of us had a hand, whether at the time it was going on, we knew it or not. We did. We all worked tirelessly and hard and without hesitation. And so all I can say is when I was out there helping deliver food while other council members were doing other things, because although we weren't all at one place, we were all busy in our own capacity. So I just want to put that out there, that we were all doing something, but it was an honor to work beside people who didn't hesitate to help other people and who wanted to give. I mean, like Mr. Ellison said, these were people such as myself who didn't lose electricity and water, but they knew and they empathized with the people who did. And so without hesitation, they said, where do I go? Where do you want me at? And we had an amazing leader, Mr. Rizzo, told everybody what to do that day because we were blessed with the food, but not with the support. And so, let me take that back. Our volunteers we got, and let me correct you, within 12 hours, this whole thing was put together. 12 hours, we got volunteers, we got food, we got leadership, and we killed it. We made sure all those boxes were in trunks. I think we ended an hour early because the need was there. But once we got into that rhythm, we were unstoppable, for sure. Everybody there gave it their all. And even though we helped 1680? He knew the exact number. It still hurt to tell some of these people that we didn't have enough food. So that inspires me to move forward and to work harder and to make sure that this kind of incident never happens again, that we're always prepared to do our best and to provide the best for our residents. So for our city staff who worked tirelessly and gave of all themselves. I mean, I seen grown men look like they were about to cry because they felt like they failed because of situations that were beyond their control. And I'll say I have nothing but love and respect for not just our residents and our city, but for our staff, and we can never thank them enough. So I vote for like a week off. Just give them a week off and let them relax. Maybe maybe in spring where it's not hot and it's not cold, so we could do without them. But thank you to our staff. Thank you to Samantha, who killed it with communications with our city. I cannot even sing my praises high enough for Mr. Sellers. I didn't know when I got elected, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to expect. All my communication with Mr. Sellers was immediately answered. It was reciprocated. He was on it. I asked him, and if he didn't know, he was honest enough to say, I don't know. So a lot of love and respect for that. And I think we showed this week that we are Kyle strong. So kudos to everybody in the city of Kyle.
Mayor, one quick.
I just want to see if Councilmember Tobias, you want to go next?
Okay, let him go.
Go ahead, Rizzo. You can finish up.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to finish up on one more thanks that we forgot was our spouses. To see our spouses out there working, it's like sometimes they're voluntoed, not volunteered, and they show up and they give it their all. And I just want to thank our spouses for being out there with us in the trenches and working hard, just as hard as ours, maybe even harder. I know my wife went to sleep and had no trouble sleeping that night. So definitely just the spouses.
Here to the spouses. Yeah.
Sticks.
Mr. Mayor, this is Tobias. I'll be real quick. I'm going to echo on everything that everybody has said. City staff, everybody that pitched in, thank you so much. We do have a lot of heroes that are in our community. We have a lot of private citizens that were also assisting with passing out water bottles from their own time, their own money. I want to thank them as well. I also want to thank a lot of the neighbors, again, like somebody had stressed earlier, helping each other. If somebody was low on food or whatever, we came together as a community on that end. The food bank, we had volunteers from Lehman High School, some of the students that were out there, a lot of the public works people, teachers, civic group leaders. Those were just small examples of the individuals that were out there that were helping out and assisting. But ladies and gentlemen, I just want to stress to you on this end, these type of emergencies and situations and incidents happen all the time. There will be another one. But I want you to be rest assured that we as a city will still do our best to come through. There are things that we will need to adjust. There will probably be some improvements that will need to be made. And just going forward to let you know, rest assured that this council and our mayor and everybody that's on city staff will evaluate everything that went on during this crisis. We will dissect every little thing to see what didn't work, but also what did work, and to make improvements from there. So in the future, we will be able to provide a better service and a better change of communication or whatever it is on that going forward. So just rest assured that we are taking notes on this, and we will improve. If some of you feel that there were some needs for improvement, but rest assured that we will still be there for you in the time of need. Thank you.
I don't really know what to add here. I've got a few stories that I think are pretty fun, a few people to call out. One's Warren driving back from Las Vegas because he couldn't get a flight while he was off because the wastewater treatment plant was in that critical of condition. I think probably without hesitation, he got into a vehicle and made the 20-hour drive back here. I think of Tim Samford working through the night with his crew, trying to solve water issues. It's one thing to have to work, through the middle of the night. It's another thing to think that the city is relying on you so that they may have water, and that if you can't solve the problem, the crisis is going to get worse. I think of Samantha Armbruster, who early on Friday morning really embodied a communications director, which is something that we've talked to Samantha about a lot. Taking the idea of communication and bringing it up to that level of being there, being present, thinking about the city, and providing great contribution. Samantha contributed mightily, not just in the bringing together of the resources, but in the being a leader in the city to make sure we made good decisions that could be defended well in the public. I think of Harper, who was a true savior to the city and helping us to figure out a potable water crisis. I mean, honestly, by about 10 o'clock on Friday morning, it felt like an absolute crisis. We were concerned that water was going to be completely off and that there was no drinking water in Kyle. It didn't matter. It wasn't a matter of money. I mean, just where are you going to get drinking water? Where? Where do you go? I mean, you just can't get it anywhere. Sold out, counties across counties, and Harper made the just great find to get a well site that needed work, that wasn't working, up and ready to go in such short orders for us to provide potable water there was, I think, a debt the city will never be able to repay Mr. Wilder for having that great insight and being able to actually pull it off. That was pretty impressive in my book. I think of Vinny. Man, when Vinny, he was one of our SCADA techs, when he's sitting there staring at the screen and those well sites have got all the flashing red X's across all the different places. Everything has gone down. You're just sitting there staring at it and you're like, this guy, my life is in your hands, sir. What can you do? I mean, the city is collectively looking, and they don't even know it, but there's a guy in a room who is trying to solve a problem. And the elements are against them. It doesn't seem like help is on the way, and that was pretty cool just to see all of those groups. And then just to echo what everyone has said, the city manager, I have kind of a different vantage point, but not that different. And just seeing Mr. Sellers problem solve and multitask like a madman, there's just no way. In your shoes, I would not have succeeded to the degree that you did. So I'm glad I was over here and getting to just witness. But I mean, you need a third arm with 3 phones at different points. But it's more than that. It's about And honestly, to what Councilman Flores Kale said about city manager responding to everything, I don't know how you do it, Scott. I don't know how you make all the council feel like you have, that you communicate with everyone, because I'm sure you get 300 emails a day. In fact, I know you do. I know the kinds of demands on your time, but we have a lot of tenured, seasoned, executive level staff, and any of those, if we don't have Warren, if we don't have Harper, if we don't have Samantha, if we don't have Tim, if we don't have Julie Crookston stepping in as a volunteer coordinator and just killing it for 3 days over the water distribution facility, coordinating dozens of volunteers, just immediately being able to solve that issue. Council members who will go and others, fire department and others who will go and help bring old folks, I shouldn't say old folks, down from their top floors. Miss Margaret, I'm sorry. That was a stink eye. The stories of like letting down the stairs, having to, because they've got no water, no electricity, it's dark and it's 16 degrees. And just the heroism is all over the place. The Kyle United Methodist Center, the warming, the state representatives Wiener going all over the county trying to get water and delivering herself. And it's elected officials, it's staff members and volunteers in the community working together. It was a thing to behold because it was very scary, I think, for all of us, especially for about a period of 48 hours. There's a 48-hour window in there that was touch and go. It was really, really, really scary. So I'm glad to know that we had all that together, and I think we'll probably be putting something like what's been mentioned, something for staff to recognize not just the ones that the council maybe is aware of, but others as well we know that there are crews. I can go on, we could just go on. I saw library department representing, I saw Parks and Rec, I saw Public Works, I saw police. I mean, we were all, dispatch got displaced in the middle of all this. And we had to take 911 calls from mobile sites from time to time.
Did we have to move 3 times, Scott? The dispatch moved like 3 times? Yeah.
IT, yeah.
Was taking all the calls from where? From home using a generator because they didn't have power. Yeah, like the stories go on and on. Samantha, communications director, you have a bevy of content at your disposal. Great stories to tell, and that we will never be able to tell all of them. Sorry to interrupt you, man.
No. Well, I knew this was going to be a week from hell when the first ice storm came and we lost one of our really important citizens in the community who slipped and fell on the ice. And the only person I've ever given a key to the city to or had the inclination to do such, Miss Sue Farrell. This was a week from hell. There's no question about it. But it did bring out so much around. I mean, it was an absolute joy to work with staff and my fellow council members. It was just absolute joy. And without that, it could have definitely gone another direction. Looking back, it seems like it was all destiny or whatever. But going through it, you don't think that way. You think that it's just got the potential for absolute failure at every turn. So. I'll stop talking. I'm just blabbing, but that's the reality of the last week. It's not over. We still have a lot of issues to deal with, as Councilmember Tobias says, Councilmember Flores Kale says. We've exposed a lot of weaknesses in our own ability to respond to emergencies, our communication, our preparedness for all different types of emergencies that we never thought. So we do have a lot of work ahead of us to start. Really getting a war room mentality together when things go bad so that we can not get that close to falling off the cliff as a community. I mean, I don't know, yeah. So we will work. We will work to make sure this doesn't happen again. Of that, I'm sure. Mayor Pro Tem.
If I may, just to piggyback on what you said and what Councilmember Tobias said, that war room comment. My last thanks is to the citizens who passed our bond for the Public Safety Center. In that, we will have EOC. In that building, we will have communications. It'll get us one step closer to, the resources that we need to fully be able to handle these situations better. It'll help us improve. We do a great job with what we have, but the community equipping us with that building and the assets we can put inside that building is going to really help us tremendously when we know inevitably something like this is going to happen again. Not maybe exactly the same way, but something. It's been a heck of a last 12 months, to say the least. So thank the citizens for that too, because I think it's going to be a tremendous asset for the community.
Also, the school district. I mean, how many of the school resources did we utilize? Buses, schools, communications, what else? The well, I mean, it was their water to Hayes High, not even city water that was provided. Yeah, the school district was just incredible.
Their bus drivers were amazing.
Bus drivers,
They showed up that night, in the middle of the night, I think it was 11:30 at night when we were busing the seniors over to the residency that we found for them, and they were just so warm and welcoming to the seniors there, and just wanted to come out and help, and did their best to joke around with them and just make them feel like they were important. Those were amazing bus drivers. They went above and beyond, and I'll tell you, I just can't say enough about them, because they just came out and didn't care about the code. They didn't care about it being late at night. They just wanted to make sure these people showed up. And not only did they transport them, they waited there because we had to do COVID tests. So we went way in past midnight, I think, that night, and they were there the entire time and never complained and always had a smile on their face. And it just shows you how much they wanted to help and how they knew the situation. It was great to see them there. And I don't think they could have picked a better group. All was it four of them? Four of them that were there? Yeah, all four of them were amazing. So, yeah, it was great. So, yeah, definitely the school district.
Citizens on Patrol,
Oh, yeah.
huge.
Citizen
They were out
Patrol,
there.
great.
Just, and that program didn't even exist in the city of Kyle 6 months ago, or I guess a year ago. Time flies.
Can I also give a big shout out to Legend Oaks Rehabilitation and Healthcare? They took in the residents that we had without hesitation. Mr. Sellers set it up, reached out to Matt, who is the director out at Legend Oaks Rehabilitation and Healthcare Center, and his question wasn't, do we have room? It was, let me call my staff and make sure I have enough staff. And he literally made room. So shout out, and he didn't ask for anything. He did it with a warm heart. And so shout out to them and to all the companies who supported our community during this time.
Also, I'd like to give thanks to Derek Chubbs, who's the CEO for the Central Texas Food Bank. I want to thank him for trusting that we would be able to put this event on, and I want to thank him for the resources that he supplied. But also like to thank Jeff Gonzalez, who's a resident here that works for the Central Texas Food Bank and has lived here in our community for a long time. With his help as well, we were able to secure 1,680 food boxes that each box provides about 21 individual meals. So that was amazing. Thanks to them.
That's incredible. Yeah, and if we hadn't already, that's one of those areas where our knowledge and experience from a pandemic paid off, because there was no mass food distribution before the pandemic at all. I mean, that just didn't exist. It just wasn't a thing here in the city of Kyle. And to Councilman Rizzo and others, credit for working hard to establish that process. Once the emergency came, there we are. It's not our first time around the hat. So 12 hours in, you were able to get that solved. That's really cool. It shouldn't be overlooked. It's really well done. ARWA is another thing that should be mentioned for anybody who's listening along to our stories. We are quickly approaching. We're probably within 18 to 24 months away from having our phase 1B coming online, which would generate significant amount of water from a new source that's not currently there, and people are complaining about that it's going to cost some money, but now you understand why having the water infrastructure in place and having it be resilient to whatever is happening in our current area, that's something that we ought to spend some time trying to educate folks on as best as we can as it relates to the new water lines that are coming in that are about to provide a whole lot more water to our community, a whole nother pressure plane or a whole nother source to go into those pressure planes, so that if GBRA goes down like it did last time, ARWA will be there to hopefully step in and then some. Anything to add, Scott?
Council, thank you. Yeah, I had a very long list. I think you've done a great job recognizing so many people who've stepped up. We could definitely talk about stories. There are stories in every department, how people stepped up incredibly over this last week. So on behalf of staff, thank you for your support. Thank you to the community. Thank you for all of our partner agencies that have also helped, Hays County Emergency Management, PEC that worked so hard to get our tower sites back online, GBRA to get the water back to us, especially after they had some turbid water at Lake Dunlap. Seton Hayes, they were incredible. We haven't really heard a lot of the stories, but there were many stories that happened down at the hospital, the rehab center, the dialysis clinics, where lives were saved. And many stories where we can talk about lives being saved by heroic efforts from many people. ESD 5 in our fire district. We could go on and on, but really on behalf of staff, community, partner agencies, relationships we've had, and the gold standard city that we are, thank you.
All right, anything else? All right.